There's a story playing out in houses, suburbs, and quiet cul-de-sacs all over the country that almost nobody wants to say out loud. A man hits his late 50s, 30-year marriage, solid career. Kids are grown, moved out, building their own lives. From the outside, he looks like a success story. Nice home, paid off cars, retirement account, Sunday barbecues, holiday photos. And then one day, with no screaming, no thrown plates, no dramatic affair, exposed, he packs a bag, he walks out, and he never comes back. No younger woman waiting, no secret second life. He's not running to anyone, he's running away. His family is stunned, his friends are confused, everyone around him says the same thing. He just snapped. Must be a midlife crisis. He threw his whole life away for nothing. But if you actually listen to these men, if you sit across from them in a quiet room and ask why, you realize something darker and deeper. This isn't rare. This is becoming normal. Divorce overall has dropped for younger couples, but for people over 50, it's exploded. Researchers call it grey divorce. The question nobody really wants to unpack is this: what is happening inside these long-term marriages that makes a man decide, I would rather die alone than live the rest of my life like this? Because here's the uncomfortable truth. In most of these stories, he doesn't leave for someone else. He leaves for no one. He isn't chasing excitement. He's choosing quiet. In this breakdown, we're going to walk through 4 deep, rarely discussed reasons why men over 50 are walking away and not looking back. This isn't about blaming women. It's not about turning men into victims. It's about understanding the psychology of a man who looks at the calendar, feels time running out, and decides, if I don't make a move now, I'm going to die having never lived as myself. 1. From the disappearing self. When his roles end, he does. 2. Let's start with John. John spent 35 years as a top sales executive. He was the guy at work, big clients, big numbers, big pressure. His life made sense in bullet points: hit the target, close the deal, pay the bills, fund the kids' education, take the family on vacation. At home, his role was equally simple. He was the provider, he was the problem solver, he was the one everyone leaned on. Then in the same year, his youngest left for college. He took an early retirement package, and his life went from 200 miles an hour to complete stillness. He told a counsellor, I woke up one Tuesday and realised nobody needed me to be anywhere. No calls, no calendar, no deadlines. My wife had her clubs, her routines, her friends. She had a life. I walked around the house like a guest. I realised my entire identity was John the sales guy and Dad. Both jobs vanished. The man in the mirror was nobody. Psychologists have a phrase for this: identity dissolution. For decades, his answer to "Who are you?" was, I'm an engineer. I run a company. I take care of my family. That worked when he was grinding. It collapses when the grind stops. For most men in that generation, the formula was simple: job, identity. Provider, worth. Everything else was secondary. He wasn't building a self, he was building a role. Husband, father, provider. And the marriage, as beautiful as it may have been at times, got built on top of that role. Then 2 things hit at once. 1. Empty nest. The kids leave, and with them go the routines, the schedules, the noise, the constant sense of being needed. 2. Retirement or career shift. He's no longer the guy at work. No team, no targets, no title. What's left? A house, a spouse, a bank account, and a man who suddenly has to ask, who am I when nobody needs me to carry everything? The house doesn't feel full anymore. It feels hollow. Not because it's physically empty, but because his purpose isn't echoing through it like it used to. This is where the marriage becomes a mirror he doesn't like. His wife looks at him and still sees the provider, the fixer, the stable one. He looks at himself and sees a man who doesn't know what he enjoys, a man with no hobbies beyond work, a man whose friends were really just co-workers, a man who never actually built himself, just his obligations. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of finally becoming who you actually are, separate from the roles you were given. For a lot of men, that process doesn't start until their late 50s. They look around and realise, the life I built fits the man I was, not the man I might be now. And here's the quiet truth. His wife, his home, his routines, everything around him is attached to that old version. When he looks at her, he doesn't just see the woman he married, he sees 30 years of the role he played, and now that role feels dead. So when he walks out, he isn't always leaving her. He's leaving the version of himself he became with her, the one he can no longer live as. He's not running toward a new woman, he's running toward a question. If I don't have to be the provider anymore, who the hell am I? Section 2. Tired of working on us. When peace becomes more valuable than love. The second reason men walk out at 58 instead of 28 is brutal in its simplicity. They're not chasing excitement, they're chasing peace. We romanticize long marriages. We imagine 40 years together as holding hands on the porch, warm holidays, shared memories. But what a long marriage really is, for many people, is this. 30 years of negotiations, arguments, silent treatments, compromises, swallowed resentment, not one huge explosion. 1,000 small cuts. Most long-term marriages don't die from betrayal. They die from exhaustion. There's a pattern that shows up again and again in these relationships. The demand-withdraw cycle. One partner, often the wife, pushes for talks. We need to discuss this. We have to work on our relationship. You never open up. The other partner, often the husband, retreats. He goes quiet, leaves the room, says it's fine when it isn't. Why? Because he's learned what talk usually means. Accusations, blame, emotional overwhelm. For him, opening up rarely leads to connection. It often leads to conflict. So he picks the only strategy that gives him short-term relief. He shuts down. Avoiding the conversation gives him something he hasn't felt all day, a tiny bit of peace. Over years, this turns into a default pattern. She demands, he withdraws, she escalates, he goes numb. Eventually, they stop fighting altogether, not because they've healed, because he's checked out. They enter what people casually call the roommate phase. Same house, separate inner worlds, parallel lives. No emotional intimacy, just logistics. Bills are paid, repairs are done, groceries are stocked, but emotionally, the relationship is on life support. For a younger man, the idea of working on it still feels possible. Therapy, books, long talks, date nights. For a man in his late 50s who's been doing a version of that for decades, the idea of starting over, digging deep, reopening old wounds, it doesn't feel inspiring. It feels exhausting. He's not afraid of a vulnerability in theory. He's simply empty in practice. He looks at the next 20 years and asks, do I really want to spend the rest of my life in another endless cycle of we need to talk? Then he imagines something else. A small condo, a quiet house, his own routine. No one correcting how he loads the dishwasher. No one dissecting his tone. No one monitoring what he says in front of family. Just silence, just space. A man on a support forum summed it up like this. My wife is not a bad person, but life with her was a constant negotiation. What are we doing this weekend? Why did you say that? Why didn't you do this instead? It felt like being managed. I didn't leave because I stopped caring about her. I left because I could not face another 20 years of being evaluated in my own home. From the outside, it looks selfish. From the inside, it feels like survival. He isn't trading his wife for a younger model. He's trading permanent low-level stress for quiet. And once a man has lived a few weeks in that quiet, waking up without tension, going to bed without conflict, something clicks. This peace I have now is worth more than the version of love I had before. After that, going back feels impossible. Section 3. The unspoken contract. When his job is done, so is the marriage. The third reason is colder, less emotional, more practical. A lot of long-term marriages, especially for baby boomers, were built on an unspoken contract. He would carry the financial load. She would carry the domestic and emotional load. He'd grind. She'd manage the home, the kids, the social fabric. This is not about whether that's fair or unfair. It's simply how millions of families operated. His version of being a successful husband was roof over their heads, food on the table, decent neighborhood college for the kids, a retirement fund. He didn't always know how to be emotionally present. He knew how to show up with money, stability, and protection, and for decades that was enough to keep the structure standing. Then one day he looks around and realizes the kids are independent. The house is paid off, or almost the retirement accounts are funded. She has her own social circle, maybe even her own income. The original contract, provide and protect, is in his mind fulfilled. So a question creeps in. If my job is done, what exactly is this marriage now? In the best cases, the answer is, now we enjoy the life we built. Now we reconnect. Now we're partners, not just parents or project managers. But in a lot of cases, when the project phase ends, there isn't much left. They never developed a real friendship. They never learned to enjoy time together without a task. Their entire connection was built on raising kids and surviving work. Now the mission is accomplished. The boat made it across the ocean. He looks at his wife and doesn't see a teammate for the next chapter. He sees someone whose life is surprisingly intact, without him doing much anymore. On top of that, the economics have changed. Many women over 50 have their own careers, pensions, or assets. They're not trapped financially like earlier generations were. So what happens? He feels like his position as provider is obsolete. His presence is no longer necessary. He is a cost centre, not a core pillar. A financial planner who works with grey divorce clients shared a story like this. A 62-year-old client had just sold his company. He'd made sure house paid, savings solid, kids, college funded. He looked at the planner and said, "For 40 years my job was simple. Build the machine that feeds the family. I did it. The mission's complete. But now that there's no mission, there's no marriage either. We don't talk, we don't laugh. We're just there. I don't want to spend the last 20 years as a piece of furniture in my own house." From his perspective, it's not betrayal. It's a logical exit after a contract that is, in his mind, complete. He didn't promise eternal emotional fulfillment. He promised, "I will provide, I will protect, I will raise this family." He believes he delivered. Staying now, in a connection that feels hollow, feels like clocking in at a job where the company shut down years ago. So he walks, not because he hates her, because he sees no mission left to justify staying in a structure that doesn't feed either of them anymore. Section 4. The loneliest place in the world. Being unseen in your own home. The fourth reason is the one that cuts the deepest. It's not about identity, not about contracts, not about missions. It's about loneliness, not the loneliness of being alone, the loneliness of being invisible while sitting 3 feet from someone you're with. There's a different solitude is being alone and feeling okay with it. Loneliness is feeling unseen, unheard, and unvalued, no matter who is around. You can be in a crowded house full of people and still feel entirely on your own. Many men in long-term marriages live that reality for years. It looks like this. He comes home and tries to share something about his day. She half listens while scrolling her phone. He expresses a concern about aging, career, finances. The topic gets changed to something logistical, groceries, appointments, minor annoyances. He offers an opinion. It's dismissed, corrected, mocked, or brushed off. After enough repetitions, he stops trying. Why talk if nothing lands? Why share if everything gets minimized? So he stops sharing his dreams, stops opening up emotionally, stops revealing his internal world. Not because he lacks emotion, because he's learned that exposing it just leads to feeling more alone. To stay safe, he retreats into work, hobbies, or numb routines. They stop laughing together. Inside, jokes die off. Affection becomes mechanical or disappears. By the time the kids leave, what's left is 2 people under one roof, sharing Wi-Fi, not a life. The moment of clarity that finally breaks him is almost never dramatic. It's small. Like this. He has a deeper conversation with a stranger on a plane than he's had with his wife in a year. A barista remembers his name and order, and it feels warmer than his morning interactions at home. Someone at the gym listens to him vent for 5 minutes, and it hits harder than the last 10 dinners at his own table. One man put it perfectly when explaining his divorce to his adult kids. For the last decade, I was a ghost in my own house. I paid for everything. I fixed everything. I was there physically, but nobody really saw me. When the dog died, I sat there absolutely crushed. He'd been by my side for 15 years. Your mother patted my shoulder and said, well, he was old. That was it. No shared sadness. No real comfort. In that moment, I realised I would rather cry alone in a small apartment than feel that invisible in a house I paid for. That's the part most people on the outside never understand. When he finally leaves, he is not choosing loneliness. He's choosing less loneliness. Because being alone in a quiet room with your thoughts is less painful than being next to someone who makes you feel like you don't exist. The twist, he didn't leave for another woman. By now, the most common narrative is easy to flip back on. He's the bad guy, he bailed, he quit, he got bored. Sometimes that's true. There are selfish men, there are cowards. But in a huge number of grey divorce cases, the cliché story, man leaves for younger woman, doesn't match reality. So if he didn't leave for her, who did he leave for? The answer is uncomfortable. He left for him. Not the selfish, reckless version people imagine. He left for the man he used to be before life crushed him into one role, or the man he never got the chance to become. He leaves to finally sit with questions he's been avoiding for 30 or 40 years. What do I actually like? What does a day look like if I'm not serving everyone else? What kind of man am I when I'm not busy fixing things? Viktor Frankl wrote that humans are driven not just by pleasure, but by meaning. A lot of these men wake up one day and realise the meaning they built their entire life around, provide, protect, raise kids, is done. The marriage, instead of transforming into new meaning, has become a museum of old roles. They are running out of time to live a life that feels true, so they do something extreme. They burn down the comfortable prison, not because they want chaos, because they want at least a chance at authenticity before the clock runs out. He's not trying to relive his 20s. He's trying to experience being fully himself for the first time, to wake up in a place where he doesn't feel like an actor reciting lines he never wrote. So why are men over 50 walking away and not looking back? Put simply, 1. Loss of self. Their old roles, husband, father, provider, end or transform. No new identity forms to replace them. Every day becomes a mirror of a man they no longer recognise. 2. Exhaustion of conflict. 30 years of being analysed, corrected, negotiated with, and emotionally drawn out. Peace starts to feel more valuable than love. Silence starts to feel like oxygen. 3. Contract completed. The unspoken deal, I'll provide, we'll raise a family, is fulfilled. With the mission complete, the structure no longer has purpose. There's no shared vision left, just history. 4. Escape from invisible loneliness. Being ignored, dismissed, or emotionally sidelined in your own home is more brutal than being physically alone. Walking out is less about leaving someone, and more about finally leaving the void. Is every man who walks away justified? No. Is every marriage like this? No. But the pattern is real, and it's growing. We're asking marriages to last 40, 50, 60 years. Previous generations rarely lived long enough, or stayed together long enough to face what we now call grey divorce. Add in changing gender roles, financial independence for both partners, longer lifespan, less stigma around divorce, and you get a new phenomenon. Men who don't explode at 35 but quietly exit at 58. Not chasing youth, chasing themselves. If you're a man hearing this and feeling it, if this feels uncomfortably close to your own thoughts, a few things are worth saying. You're not crazy for wanting peace. You're not weak for feeling invisible. You're not broken for questioning the roles you've carried for decades. But before you pack your bags, ask yourself, have I ever actually told the truth in this marriage about how lonely I feel? Have I built any identity outside of work and family? Is there anything left to salvage if both of us were brutally honest? Sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is yes. But it requires both people to tear down and rebuild. Either way, ignoring it and hoping it gets better on its own is how men end up walking out at 60, not knowing how they got there. If you're the one being left, if you're a woman hearing this from the other side, this isn't a weapon to use in an argument, it's a lens. The question to ask is not, how dare he? But, when did he stop feeling seen? When did we stop being more than roommates? When did all of life become tasks, logistics, and criticism instead of connection? You may not be able to fix it now, but understanding it can help you. Avoid repeating the same patterns in the future. Have more honest conversations with your kids about their own relationships. Extend a different kind of empathy, even in pain. Final questions. So I'll leave you with this. If you're the man thinking of leaving, what are you really trying to escape? Your wife, or the version of yourself you became in that house? If you're the partner being left, what do you wish you had dared to ask, say, or see 10 years earlier? Drop that in the comments. It may be the exact perspective someone else needs to read tonight. And if this gave you a clearer way to think about long-term relationships, grey divorce, and what it really means to hold on or to let go in the second half of life, make sure you subscribe. There's a lot more to unpack about men, relationships, identity, and the quiet decisions that change everything.